Hello, Tungsten Miner here. Today I'm going to talk about BuildCraft circuitry, in particular the gates and pipe wire and all that sort of stuff. So I've got a bunch of things set up here to talk through, but it all starts with this assembly table. So this is the guide that allows you to build the different gates and pipe wires and facades and all the things that go on them, generally working from this set of materials. There's a few other things you might need for some other more complicated items, but this is basically it. But first, let me talk through how this thing works. The assembly table itself is pretty straightforward. There's a diamond gear, a diamond, some obsidian, but basic materials. Once you've got that put together, though, it doesn't do anything. You can just put your items on there and wait all day long and nothing will happen. What you need are these lasers. Now, these lasers themselves are also not terrifically expensive, a lot cheaper and creative. You just need a couple of diamonds, some obsidian, and redstone, and that gives you your laser. But what they're doing is transmitting power to the assembly table. So if we take a look at some of these recipes, in order to make this quartz AND gate, it requires 600,000 RF. To make this emerald OR gate, it requires 1.2 million RF. To make this one, 400,000, 600,000, 100,000, 5,000. Okay, so pipe wires are cheap. But the point is, you need to provide a lot of power to this thing in order to make most of these items. And the lasers are what provides the power. Each one can provide 20 RF per tick towards whatever it is that you're building on this assembly table. So making a lot of them, if you want things to go quickly, is actually kind of necessary. But expensive, right? This is a 30 diamond set of lasers if they need 2 each. Not to mention the power. In this particular case, I'm kind of cheating because this is, well, just a tutorial. And I'm using a creative energy cell from thermal expansion, which means it generates as much power as I want forever. And then that goes through this emerald Kinesis pipe and into these diamond pipes, which are backing the lasers themselves. So the lasers have an infinite power support source. But when I put ingredients down on this assembly table, it's going to take as long as it takes for 20 RF per tick to transfer through each of these lasers onto the assembly table. So if I want to make, say, one of the most basic things is a little bit of a redstone chipset here, I click on that, the lasers all start firing, they power up through their different stages until they get to blue, which is the hottest they go, and then they're done. The part is made, ingredients consumed, and it leaves this little gray outline to say, hey, this is the last thing you made. So if I go ahead and drop another piece of redstone on there, it's right away going to start making that item again. And I can wait a few seconds and it's going to go and finish. And if I don't want this behavior, if I want to make something else the next time I put redstone down, I can just click on this and it goes away. All of the pieces I've made either just pop off the assembly table and sit there as items floating on the ground until they disappear, or they will move into an adjacent inventory. So it's a good idea to always have a chest or something right next to your assembly table so you don't lose that part that you just made. The next thing I'm going to need is a little bit of red pipe wire. So I'm going to put down some redstone. Good thing I cleared out that prior recipe. I'm going to put down some iron, which gives me another choice. So as I put raw ingredients over on this side, it shows me my choices over here. And if I click on either one of these, it would start building that thing right away. But what I want is red pipe wire. So I'm going to drop in some rose red, iron, and redstone to get my red pipe wire. And you can see how much faster that went. As I was saying before, certain things require a lot more energy than others. And this is one of the lowest energy things you can make. So now, if I want to make just a regular basic gate, I click on this, and it's going to go off and consume these 2 ingredients, providing all the power to do that. All done. That's now grayed out, and I can click it to get rid of it. And now I've got my basic gate. Now, I've said a lot about these handy autarchic pulsars and autarchic gates. Let's make one of those just to see what the heck I was talking about. So I've got my basic gate already, and to make an autarchic, it's a hard word to say, boy, pulsating chipset, there we go, that's easier. If I want to make a pulsating chipset, then I need ender pearl, some redstone, and a bunch of power. So I click on this thing and my lasers start firing up and churning through to make me one of these pulsating chipsets. And in fact, make me 2 of these pulsating chipsets. It's unusual that you get more than one out of anything, but apparently ender pearls being as hard to come by as they are, they decided to make that one give you a bit more out of it. And so these lasers are just going to keep going. They're not harmful. You can walk through them, no big deal. They're pretty smart about finding the table. So even if I hadn't set them up with a clear line of sight, they'd still be able to get there. And you can see these bottommost ones are kind of cheating and going through the chest. Now that I have this pulsating chipset, how do you get the 2 of them together? Well, you need an integration table. This is another device you can make. It's this guy right over here. I keep forgetting that I am in creative. Which instead of diamonds at the top, it uses gold, but pretty much the same recipe as the assembly table, which is this guy right here. So the way you work with this thing is you take the base unit of whatever it is you're doing and you drop it in the center, and then you take the thing you want to integrate, in this case a pulsating chipset, and drop it in there, and the lasers will all start firing at this other table. This one, unlike the assembly table, actually leaves its item in an inventory in the table itself. So now I've integrated the basic gate and the autarchic pulsar, or the pulsating chipset, so that now I've got a basic gate with that capability. Or in other words, I've got that thing right there that I keep using to pump things around and move stuff around and all these kind of things. So there's your assembly table. Throw your ingredients over here, and there's lots of different things you might need. Provide power, and select a recipe from the right-hand side. And then all the lasers fire, build the thing, and it pops off into your JSON inventory. There's a lot of stuff you can make, and you can see from the breadth of materials that I've got listed here. The one other thing I want to talk about that's kind of different from chips and chipsets is facades. And I haven't really shown them yet, but let's go ahead and make a few, and I can show what that's all about. So a facade is something that you can attach to a pipe that's going to give it the appearance of some other block. So for example, if I take a structure pipe here and I go off behind my laser and I just lay out a few, I can take this stone facade, and the same way that I would place a chipset, a normal chip, is just take the gate, find the side I want it to appear on, and then right click, and it can go on any which side I want. Of course, being in creative, that doesn't actually use up my stock of them, but it certainly would in survival. The same thing works for a facade. I can go ahead and just click that on there, and you can see it makes that side of this structure pipe look just like a piece of stone. And I can even kind of slide one in there. You see how that hitbox changes? And if I do that, it's going to disconnect the 2 sides. It's going to put a solid surface in between. Now if I want to take that off, I can just shift and right click, and it pulls it back into my inventory. And that works for pretty much anything. If I want to get this basic gate back, I can shift and right click with an open hand and get back anything that's attached to a pipe. And this works for chips, it works for facades, it works for anything at all that attaches. Pipe wires, you name it. I can even go so far as to make a completely enclosed, solid looking, except for the bottom side. Yeah, so here, this is still obviously a fake stone block. I can even fill in that last side. So now I've put a stone facade on each and every side of that structure pipe, and it looks just like a regular block. This works for any kind of pipe. It doesn't have to be a structure pipe. It can be Kinesis pipes, or it can be fluid pipes, or it can be item transport pipes. Whatever you got will work just as well. So facades are a great way of including pipes in your structures without them looking like pipes. And so I just shift and right click and get all those things back again. Okay, so that's the basic construction of these things. I'm going to talk about the charging table and the programming table when I get to the video on robots, because both of those are used for robots. In the meantime, let's move on to the next little section here, which is how do you use these things and what do they do? Okay, so here's a basic setup. I've got a switch on one end, I've got a lamp on the other end, and I'm going to light it up at a distance by using gates and pipe wire. So this red piece of stuff here is pipe wire. If I shift right click, I can pull that section off. And if I just right click on the pipe, I'll put it back on. And the pipe wire, you notice, connects along the length of whatever pipe. Again, I happen to be using structural pipe here, but it could be any kind of pipe at all. If I right click on the gate, it brings up this interface. On the left-hand side is the condition that the gate is trying to detect. And there's a whole bunch of conditions that can possibly be detected. And it has a lot to do with what context this gate is in. So if there's an inventory, like that chest next to the gate, then I get different options than if there isn't one. The things that are always available, no matter what, so if I take that pipe wire off, for example, is redstone signal on, redstone signal off, and that's it. So everything else depends upon some other thing being nearby that for it to detect. So in this case, I'm saying if I detect a redstone signal, I'm going to send a red pipe signal, which is I'm going to turn on this red pipe piece here, this red wire. And that is now just a condition that any gate which happens to have the same red pipe wire come next to it can detect. So I've got this one over here that says, hey, if you detect that red pipe wire is turned on, go ahead and make a redstone signal. And this is just a regular vanilla lamp that always comes on when it detects a redstone signal. So when I throw my switch over here, this guy detects the redstone signal, and you can see in the UI it highlights that red saying, yes, this condition is on. So therefore, I'm going to put on this red pipe signal. Over here it says, yes, that red pipe signal is on, so I'm going to put on my redstone signal, which makes the lamp come on. Redstone signal goes away, lamp goes off. Over here, I've got the same setup, except I've got a different condition. Because this is next to an inventory, a chest, I've got it saying, hey, if there are items in inventory, go ahead and turn on that red pipe signal. Now, we can infer, since the pipe signal's off, that there's nothing in here, which of course is true. But as soon as I put even one piece of stone in there, things change. It says, aha, there are items in this inventory, so I'm going to turn this signal on, or I'm going to activate this output, which is to turn on the red pipe signal. And I've got this guy programmed the same way, so it outputs redstone signal, and there you go. Okay, let's look at this next one. In this one, I say, if there's space in the inventory, go ahead and turn on a red pipe signal. But there's no space. I've filled it up with dirt. So if I take out a stack of dirt, the light goes on, because now there is space in the inventory. What's kind of funny about this condition, though, is it wants an entire slot full. If I put in even one piece of dirt, there's no longer considered to be space in this inventory. Even though, in theory, you could put in another, almost a full stack of dirt, there's not an open spot. That's what that one means. So it's a little confusing at first. Moving on. Here's an example where I switch to using transport pipes. And what I've got set up here is this guy says, if there's a red pipe signal, activate a redstone signal. Sitting right next to it, I've got a redstone engine, which is just waiting for a redstone signal to start its job of pumping items. And over here, I've got a gate that says, if there's space in inventory, turn on the red pipe signal. This box has some dirt in it. This box is all full. But as soon as I take that one piece of dirt out, that signal is going to say, oh, there's space now. Turn on that pipe. This one says, hey, there's a pipe signal. Turn on that redstone. And off it goes. That guy starts pumping items out. But as soon as that first item got into this chest, it no longer had space. That thing got filled up. And so it turned off its red pipe signal, which turned off the redstone signal, which turned off the engine, which stopped pumping, which means I only actually moved 2 items, because one of them was the first one that caused the signal to go off, and the second one was just already on the way, because this guy had already pumped it out before that signal made its way through. The other thing to notice, though, over here, I've got this lamp, and I've got another gate tucked away back here. This one is trying to detect the condition of items traversing this pipe. Now, because this gate is on a transport pipe and not a structure pipe, there's different things that it can detect. There's more conditions available. So items traversing, is it empty? I think those are all the pipe-related ones. Yeah. So items traversing, what I can do now is if I take out 2 of these, it's going to have to pump for a lot longer, right? It's going to have to fill up a whole stack's worth. And every time an item makes its way through, that lamp is going to flash on and then off because the item's traversing and then it's gone. Item's traversing and then it's gone. So you can detect when things are moving through your network and have different things happen. In this case, I'm just setting off a simple redstone signal, but of course you can do a lot more interesting things too. All right, next up, let me get rid of this dirt. Kinesis pipes. Over here, I have an iron AND gate. And this is the first time we've seen one of these. The basic gates give you one condition to detect and one thing to do as a result, hence basic. Iron, being one step up, gives you 2 conditions that you can detect and 2 different things that you can do. Now these conditions, or these outcomes, these activities, have to do with the fact that this is a Kinesis pipe. It's not strictly true. Some of the other pipes have the same thing, but this notion of closed and open has to do with, are you allowed to move things through this pipe or not? So if there's no redstone signal, which is the case right now, you can see this is red, it's going to close the pipe. In other words, it's not going to allow anything to traverse this pipe. If there is a redstone signal, which there is not because that's gray, it's going to open the pipe. It just so happens I've given myself a lever right here. So if I throw this lever, it'll create a redstone signal that this guy will detect, and it will open this pipe. Unfortunately, there's no visible way to tell if it's opened or closed. It would be kind of nice if there were, but there isn't. But anyway, if I throw this lever, it opens the pipe, and now energy starts moving from one of my energy cells into the other one. And as soon as I throw this back again, it closes the pipe. So this is a great way to be able to control whether you're allowing energy to move from one place to another in your house. Maybe you've got a device that you only want to power sometimes, and this would be a great way to be able to turn that on and off again. But you need the AND gate for this to work, or you need an iron gate for this to work because you need the 2 conditions. When you close something, it stays that way until something comes along and does this open step. And it stays open until something comes along to do this close step. So if I pull this gate off, it's still closed. Unfortunately, there's no way to tell that, but it is. I have to put the gate back on, re-add the programming, and here this is kind of analogous to the conditions that we had before, right? So power traversing, pipe empty, power requested. This is kind of a neat one because if you've got any device out there that needs power from time to time, maybe when it's doing work, then this signal will come on, and maybe you can have this do the opening when there's power requested, otherwise you close it. Power overloaded, hey, there's too much power here. Redstone signal on, redstone signal off, that's the one I wanted. Redstone signal off is closed. Redstone signal on is going to be open. And you can have input only, open, or output only as different conditions here. So you can kind of make it like I'm only going to allow power to come in one direction or the other direction, or items or fluids or whatever. This open and close stuff works for all 3 kinds of pipes. So power on, power off. Very, very handy. Up next, I have 2 different kinds of iron gates. You might have noticed that the iron gate we were just looking at before was an iron AND gate. Well, there's also an iron OR gate. And this goes back to kind of computer science, programming logic stuff. In computer science, when you say AND, you're going to say such and such condition is true only if both of the inputs are true. So in this case, I'm going to say if this is empty and it's full, then go ahead and turn on this red pipe signal. Well, that doesn't make any sense. How could it be both empty and full? Well, it can't. And so this red pipe signal will never go on. Over here, I've got an OR gate which says, if either one of these is true, then go ahead and put that red pipe signal on. In this case, the inventory is empty and it's not full, but that's okay. This is an OR gate. Either one will make this thing come on. Now, if I put something in here, it's not going to be empty. And if I don't fill it up, it's not going to be full. So I can actually turn this thing off by just putting one item in there. Now it's not empty, it's not full, so neither condition is true, which means red pipe signal is off. Take the item out again, it comes back on. Now what could I do to make this not be completely senseless? Well, I could say if it's empty, or if it's, let's see here, space available. So if it's empty or it's got space available, or maybe I want to go back and say if there's items in here or if it's empty. But this is an AND gate, right? So items in there and empty can't make any sense. So what I can do here is say if there's space available and items, then go ahead and give me a red pipe signal, which means it's not empty, but it's not full either. So now it comes on, right? Because both of these are true. There's space left. I can look and see there's plenty of empty slots. And there's items in inventory. I've got these two pieces of stone. Both of those conditions being true, the lamp comes on. Okay? So that's the difference between OR gates and AND gates. If you have the same outcome, then with an OR gate, either of the two inputs will make that outcome happen. And with an AND gate, if you have the same outcome, both of these have to be true in order to create the outcome. And you can kind of see that indicated here. This one, space and inventory, is true, but it's not sufficient. This is an AND gate. They both have to be true. So no outcome. The outcome side of this is gray. The input side of it is red. A little bit complicated. Give me a moment to digest that. Leave some comments if that wasn't a good explanation. Moving on though. Okay, a little more complicated. We've got a new kind of pipe wire over there, and we've got a couple of new kinds of gates. This is an iron AND gate that has a pulsating chipset attached to it, or autarchic pulsar. So it's going to look for that red pipe signal to come on, and it's going to set off the energy pulsar. It's on an emerald transport pipe, and this thing is configured to only allow dirt to come out. This one over here configured the same way, except of course with a blue pipe signal. And over here it's configured to only allow stone to come out. And funny enough, I've got dirt and stone in this chest. Iron transport pipe to allow them to merge and go off in this direction. Finally to this chest over here, which has also got stone and dirt in it. This chip is a gold AND gate. Now, gold gates have a capability that the lesser gates do not have, which is you can configure the condition that you're looking for. So I have now this option available to me, which I did not have available before on the iron gates, which is to say, is this inventory such and such amount full of a certain item? So in this case, I'm saying, if this inventory has less than 1/4 dirt in it, then go ahead and make this red pipe signal true. If this inventory has less than 1/4 of stone in it, go ahead and make this blue pipe signal true. Okay, so I look at my inventory and clearly I've got 1/3 stone and 1/3 dirt. But if I take some of the stuff out, like 1, 2, 3, 4 of the dirt, that's not quite enough. But if I take out one more, that means, there's less than 1/4 dirt in there. And so I'm going to have that thing start sending dirt to me. If I then go and say, I'm going to take out 1, 2, 3, 4, and one more stone, then there's not enough stone, and it's going to have the blue pipe wire come on and send the stone down to me. Now, as soon as one or the other of these gets back up above that 1/4 that I mentioned here, it's going to turn off that pipe signal, which will turn off the autarchic pulsar over on the side there, and turn off the influx of that particular kind of item. So let me go ahead and put some of this stone back in here and some of this dirt back in here. And we'll see, sure enough, pipe signals have gone off, the pulsars are no longer pulsating, and those last couple of items trickled in that had made it out before the signals got to the other side. And now we've got a completely full set of all of the stuff that we were asking for. So go fill this back up again. And we're ready to move on to the next example. Okay, over here I have an emerald end gate. I have a robot, and you can't quite tell, but there's a docking station under there. And sorry, it's a tease. I'm not going to talk about this time. Robots are so complicated, they probably deserve many, many videos of their own. Each and every robot probably deserves a video of its own. But I will leave you with this thought. Emerald AND gates and emerald OR gates are even more complicated than the ones we've looked at so far, and they allow you to configure many different options and situations related to the programming of robots. So I will come back and talk about all of this stuff in a future video. Moving on. Over here, I have a diamond AND gate. Now, one of the things that we noticed about our gold gate over here is that it has both red and blue pipe signals possible. It turns out iron gates likewise have red and blue pipe signals possible, just the examples I thought of didn't happen to use them. Over here we do. Over here, though, you can see we've got 4 pipe signals. Red and yellow on this side, and green and blue on this side. So what is this contraption? Well, this one is set up so that if it detects a lack of a certain amount of items, so I've got stone here, so I'll configure these for stone. It's going to turn on, if it's less than 25% filled with stone, it's going to turn on a red pipe signal. I'm going to turn on the blue pipe signal if it's less than 50. If it's less than 75, I'm going to turn on a green pipe signal, and if it's full, I'm going to, let's make that space available. Come on, where's yellow? There's yellow. And in this box, I've got all this stone. So as you can see, I do have space available, right? There's empty slots in here. But I've got more than 75% full of stone. So only that yellow signal has come on, and up it goes to the very top. Oh, yeah, the redstone is leaking a bit. Anyway, yellow pipe signal on, turn redstone signal on. This one says if the green pipe signal on doesn't turn on the redstone signal, but this thing must be leaking its redstone signal into the next lamp down. So I'd have to design this example a little more carefully next time. Okay, so this one, if it's blue, it'll turn the redstone signal on, and this one, if it's red, it'll turn the redstone signal on. So as this thing gets emptied out, we can see more and more of the signals coming on. So the yellow one's on, now the green one's on. If I keep emptying things out, the blue one eventually will come on, and so on and so forth, right? So as I fill this guy up, the signals start going out one by one. And over here, I've got a pulsar, and I've got my box full of stone. Come on, pulsar. Huh. Not sure why, but it's not pulling the items out. Well, figure that out a different time. Okay, last but not least, talking about gates. There are, even for basic gates, and for every other variation of gates, 5 different extensions, we'll say, or 4 different extensions you can add to each one. This is just the basic gate. There are no extensions. This one is a basic gate with the autarchic pulsar attached. So, yeah, I've got a bunch of these guys apparently. Yeah, we look at this guy and we can see autarchic pulsar is installed, and that's done in the integration table with one of these pulsating chipsets. So drop him back on here, and we've talked a bunch about what he can do. The really special thing, of course, is this energy pulsar, so that when whatever condition happens that you care about, he starts pulsing. And that's going to have the effect of basically pumping whatever it is that you can pump. So this is most useful on a wooden or an emerald pipe of some kind. It can also do a single energy pulse, so you can pulse things more slowly or only once when a certain condition happens, just to get one of those items. Next up is this gate here, which is a daylight sensing gate. We can see here he's got a light sensor installed, basic gate otherwise. And what this guy can do is detect whether it's daytime or nighttime, and that's it. So you can have whatever condition happen when it's day or nighttime with this basic gate. And this guy's made by using a daylight sensor on your integration table and just merging it in with your chip. Next up, this guy is a clock timer, and you do that with a quartz. Let's see, here we go. NEI is going a little crazy here. Yeah, let's do this. So you make yourself one of these quartz chipsets, which is just quartz and redstone, and then you take that and you drop it in an integration table with whatever gate you want to integrate it into, and now you'll have a gate that has a clock timer on it. And the cool thing that clock timers do is, let's say we want to produce a redstone signal when we have a 15-second countdown. So every 15 seconds, this thing is going to trigger that condition and then turn it off. And then wait another 15 seconds and trigger it and turn it off. That's a pretty slow timer, so you can kick that up to 10 seconds or to 5 seconds. So now every 5 seconds, it's going to trigger that thing and turn it off. Trigger the thing and turn it off. Combining these two things together, this clock and the daylight sensor, allows you to have some pretty sophisticated systems of making things that only happen every so often. So you can have something that happens on a timer only overnight, or having something that happens on a timer only during the day, or you can combine the daylight sensor and the energy pulsar to only move things at night. Lots of different possibilities with the kind of combination of things you can do with these three. This last guy here is got a comparator built into it. So you take your comparator redstone that gives you a comp chipset, and you take the comp chipset, drop that on your integration table with your gate, and that gets you a redstone fader. So the redstone fader allows you, as either a condition you're going to detect or as an output you're going to create, look for a certain redstone signal strength. So here I've got it whenever there's not a red pipe signal, and of course that red pipe signal isn't connected to anything, so there couldn't possibly be. So there's no signal, so yes, this condition ought to be implemented. Output a redstone level of 5, and I can implement that or increase that to whatever I want, right? So I've got this string of redstone dust going out into the plains here, and I've got it set to 10 at the moment, so it's died out by the time it gets to there. But all the way up here, it's redstone signal 10. And I can pop that all the way up to the maximum of 15. You can see it goes out even further before it rolls around again. Down to 1. So I'm redstone level 1. So I can detect exactly how strong of a signal I've created too. And this is handy so that you can say, like, have a comparator next to a chest, and so it produces a certain strength of redstone signal based upon how full the chest is. And then you can have this guy detect, okay, exactly how full. It's a bit more savvy and sophisticated than what we were doing back with that example there of saying, hey, is it less than, or this example here is saying less than 25 for 50 or 75. You can get very specific with this guy. But you can also detect lots of other things too. So lots and lots of possibilities. And that's it for the basic discussion of redstone gates. Now, of course, you can see there's a lot of conditions I didn't talk about that can be detected. There's a lot of output actions that can be configured that I didn't talk about. If you start integrating this with other mods, they all have sets of conditions they add of their own. So for example, those energy cells I was using back at the beginning have their own conditions you can detect of are they full or are they empty and so on and so forth. So the combinations that you can make are kind of endless. So in the future, I'm planning on doing a couple of videos about some more complicated advanced setups that you can do. So for example, the power plant setup that I gave for refining oil way back down there in the distance, you can automate the whole thing really nicely using these gates. So sooner or later, I'll get around to doing a tutorial on building a fully automated power system using all of the BuildCraft gates. But that's it for now. If you liked the video, hit that like button. If you want to know when the next one comes out, hit subscribe, and I will talk to you later.